Hello, this is our Year 8 Statistics project. Our survey was all about pizza. Both Year 8 classes answered the survey me and my partner Mimi put out. A total of 42 students answered the survey, and since then, we have collected all the data from the surveys to put into all sorts of charts and tables. Our first chart is categorical, and it is the percent of students who enjoy pizza in both Year 8 classes combined. For this project, we gathered data from classes 8BN and 8NC about pizza, if they liked it or disliked it. We made a graph to show who enjoys pizza in each class. This lets us easily see the percentage of pizza lovers in both groups. As you can see, both classes love pizza, so the total percentage of people in Year 8 who like pizza is 100%. This question is categorical. The survey question is, what's your favorite style of pizza? The graph shows comparing the favorite pizza styles of students in both 8NC and 8BN. The data was collected and represented in a bar graph. The data from the graph shows us the most popular pizza style with both classes combined was Neapolitan. New York style was also a popular type of pizza in both classes, even though some pizza styles like California, Sicilian, and Chicago deep dish were not chosen by any students within either class. ANC most favored pizza style was New York, and 8BN's was Neapolitan. For this question, we asked classes A and C and 8BN about their favorite pizza toppings and displayed the results in a bar graph. The graph shows that pepperoni was the most popular topping in both classes, with 8 students in A and C and 10 students in 8BN choosing it. Cheese was the second most popular option, while toppings such as mushrooms, sausages, truffle, and olives weren't very common. Overall, the results show us that most students preferred classic toppings like pepperoni and cheese, while the less common toppings were not as popular. This box and whisker plot data shows us that the most people in Year 8 ate between 3 and 7 slices of pizza. The average number of slices eaten was about 5, which means most people don't just eat 1 or 2 slices. The most common answer was 8 slices, showing us that some people can eat quite a lot of pizza. Overall, the results show that people are very different and eat very different amounts, but most of these answers were somewhere in the middle. Both classes gave back very similar results across all 5 questions, which shows that our questions were good enough to find out what people like and what people dislike. The sample size of 42 students is great, considering there are a total of about 50 kids in the whole Year 8 class. Some questions may have been a little challenging for some students due to their maybe not having enough answers to choose from. Overall, the two classes showed somewhat consistent patterns, which boosted our confidence into choosing the right topic.
Hi, I'm Charlotte, this is Bella, and this is Vanity. Our presentation is on Year 8 Cupcake Statistics because we did a survey and we included 8PN and 8NC, and we surveyed 39 students total.
For our questions that we did 6 questions, 3 categorical and 3 numerical.
The reason we chose cupcake is because kids always like to bring treats for their class during birthdays, and this survey will help them know how many to bring and what flavors.
Our first question was, what cupcake flavor do you like best? This was a categorical question, and we included 2 types of graphs. One bar chart, which was the favorite cupcake flavor in Year 8, and one comparison chart. The favorite cupcake in Year 8 was vanilla, with 42.1% of people choosing it, and 16 out of 39 people chose it.
For question 2, it was favorite frosting flavors. For this, we did a pie chart and a comparison chart. And the most liked was vanilla, and the least liked was coffee and coconut.
For the third questions, we did what topping do you like best, and it was categorical. The topping most liked was sprinkles, and the toppings least liked were chocolate sauce and fruit.
Question 4 was numerical, and it was, how many toppings do you like on your cupcakes? We have a box and whisker chart demonstrating this, and the IQR, which is 1, shows us that everybody likes the same things, and the results aren't very varied. So if somebody was bringing cupcakes in, they should bring 1 or 2 toppings on the cupcakes.
For question 5, it was ratings of cupcakes, and for this, the minimum was 1 and the maximum was 10, and the mean was 7, showing us that cupcakes are a good treat to bring.
Question number 6 was numerical, and it was how many cupcakes do you eat per month? The minimum was 0, the maximum was 5, and the median was 2.
In conclusion, overall in Year 8 BN and ANC, the most common cupcake flavor chosen was vanilla. The most common frosting flavor chosen was vanilla. The favorite topping was sprinkles. The favorite amount of toppings was mean. People rated cupcakes a 7, and the amount of cupcakes per month most people ate was 1. If we did this again, our main weakness was probably that students might have rushed and not looked at what they were pressing. If we did the survey again, we would write down for people to slow down and really think of their answers. Thank you.
Thank you.
For our research project, statistics in math, we chose the topic fear phobias and we surveyed 41 students in total.
Our question was, the first question is, what is your fear/phobia? This tells us that most people are afraid of oceans and death. Oh, it's yours. It's yours. Okay. The question 2 is, how many years of phobia? The minimum was 1 year and the maximum was 10 years. The mean was 4.6 years.
So our third question was, on a scale of 1 to 10, how strong would you say your fear is? And the most we got was 10, which suggests that some people's fears are really intense. Also, our last question was, what's worse, facing a fear or thinking about it forever? And the percentage of the mode was 48.50%, which the most is thinking about it forever.
And in conclusion, most people chose oceans and death as their biggest fear, and everyone's fear level was around 3, 3 out of 10 seriousness. So it showed us that their fears weren't that serious, and most people had their fears for around 4 to 5 years ago, 4 to 5 years ago, and.
In our evaluation, we surveyed 41 students in total, both from 8BN and 8NC, which is a lot for our information. But I think something we need to do is change our topics because it was a bit hard to have so many categories. Thank you. Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Bye.
Pause!
Hello everyone. Today we will be presenting our statistics investigation about how Year 8 students spend their free time.
We surveyed 2 Year 8 classes at 8NC and 8BN and collected responses from 41 students in total.
Our aim was to find out what students do in their free time, where they spend it, and how much time they spend on their activities.
We will now go through each question and explain what our data tells us.
Our first question asks what students mainly do in their free time.
The graph shows that playing sports was the most popular activity overall. Spending time with friends and the family was also a common answer though.
Very few students chose studying or going to the gym.
This suggests that most Year 8 students prefer active or social activities during their free time.
For question 2, we asked students how many days each week they do their favorite activity.
The box plots and statistics show that both classes had very similar results.
The median was around 67 days, meaning many students do their favorite activity almost every day.
This tells us that students regularly make time for activities they enjoy.
Next, we asked how much time students spend each day doing their favorite activity.
The most common answer in both classes was between 1 and 3 hours per day.
However, 8BN had slightly more students in the higher time categories.
Overall, both classes showed similar patterns, but 8BN tended to spend a little more time on their favorite activities.
Question 4 looked at where students spend most of their free time.
The most common answer for both classes was at home.
The second most common answer was spending time outside with friends.
Very few students chose such as the mall,
2 minutes.
after school activities, or during school.
This suggests that students are most comfortable spending their free time at home or with friends.
For question 5, we asked students how many hours of free time they usually have on weekends.
The most common answer was 9 hours, and this was also the highest value recorded.
average was very similar, with ABN being slightly higher than ANC.
This shows that students generally have a large amount of free time available on weekends. Our final question asks students how many different free time activities they do each week.
Both classes had a median of 4 activities, meaning most students take part in around 4 different activities.
APN had a slightly higher average, but the results were still very similar.
This suggests that Year 8 students enjoy a variety of activities rather than just one hobby. To summarize, both classes showed very similar patterns in how they spend their free time.
Most students enjoy sports, spending time with friends, and spending time at home.
Students also do their favorite activities regularly throughout the week and usually spend 1 to 3 hours a day doing them.
One limitation of our investigation is that we only surveyed 2 Year 8 classes. Surveying more students would make the results more accurate.
Overall, our data was consistent and gave us a good understanding of how Year 8 students spend their free time. Thank you. Thank you for listening. Do you have any questions?
Hey guys! This is our math project about school motivation by me, Tia, and Selena.
The first question was a categorical question, which was what motivates you to go to school? Both classes chose friends. In total, it was 25 out of 40, which is 62%. And the least common was others, parents, and managed back no, which was 1 out of 40, and it was 2.5 each. And you can see the least common was they didn't really motivate them. And for the most common, I think people chose that because they just like seeing their friends and making class more entertainment.
The second question, which is a categorical question and a survey question, is what time of the day are you most motivated? ANC and APN had different results for the most common time. Afternoon topped for ANC, but for APN it was night. ANC had 7 out of 40 people who picked afternoon, which is 17.5%, and APN, which is also 17.5%. The least common results for ANC was evening, and for APN is morning and never. Probably because ANC has it after school and they might have after school activities, and for APN because they need to get ready in the morning for school.
As you can see, for the results in APN and ANC, the top choice was phone, which is 9 out of 40 people, and it's 22.5%. Possibly because you can get notifications from your friends and family, and it could distract students, or sometimes they use their phone for entertainment from social media.
The question 4 was numerical, which ANC and ABN had the exact same results, as you can see on the table. These box and whiskers plot have no first or second quartile because the range is so small that the minimum, the first quartile is the medium, is all 5.
Question 5, which is a numerical question, and the survey question is how many hours do you usually study after school? ANC average of studying is around 1.1 hour and APN average is around 1 hour, meaning ANC studies more daily than APN. ANC and APN has the same mode of 1 hour. The IQ of ANC is 1, but APN is 0, meaning ANC has more spread out data. Overall, the data are so close to each other, but ANC has more spread out data.
Conclusion. These results show us that both AAC and ABN show some similarity and give similar opinions across the 5 questions, which suggests that both classes share the same level of study hours and motivation. In Q1, both classes picked friends, showing Year 8 like coming because of entertainment and see school as fun. In Q4, the results were the exact same, showing both classes at the same academic level. Our total of the students were 40, which is quite small, and to make it more accurate, we should have bigger sample space. For some of the question, we could have included more answers to make a choice for the students. We graphed to compare the classes and to see more of their preferences, making it more detailed. Bye! Thank you.
Mr. Benson. Hope you like it.
3, 2, 1, go. Favorite holidays. Year 8 Final Statistics Project. Presented by Kian, Quincy, and Caleb.
What is your favorite holiday that you celebrate? Categorical question. Based off this chart, we can see that 52.5% of people chose Christmas Day, making it so that more than half of Year 8 chose Christmas Day as their favorite holiday. Second place goes to summer break, where 8 people chose that. And there's a large variety of different answers that were in place, including the Diwali, Easter, and Eid al-Fitr.
Question 2. Is it a big celebration in your country? As we can see on the pie chart, 5% of people said no, while 95% of people said yes. This means that almost the whole of year 8 said it is a big celebration in their country.
What do you do on this holiday? Categorical. Half of year 8 chose to spend time with their family from this chart. The second most common option was to do other stuff, with around 8 people saying that. The least common options were going to festivals and playing with games, with only one person saying that.
How much of the world celebrates this holiday on a scale of 1 to 10? Numerical question. Based off this comparison, we can see that both 8BN and 8NC are pretty similar. They both have a median of around the same and both an IQR of around the same. The only difference is that 8BN has an outlier of 2, making it so that the range is a lot bigger in 8BN. But overall, they have pretty much the same.
Question 5. How many days does your favorite holiday last? As you can see on the pie chart, almost half of the class said that it lasts once, with more than half of the class saying it lasts 2 or less days. We can also see that it has a very good consistency, considering that the range is very big.
Conclusion. Part 1. In this question, we found out that 50% of year 8 likes to celebrate Christmas the most. Question 2. We can also see that 95% of the people think that their holiday is famous. Part 2. Our data that we collected is mainly not skewed for our numerical questions, but in question 5, we gave them an option which affected our data. We also had an outlier in question 4 with the comparison, as one person said 2, which changed the comparison between 8BN and 8NC. Part 3. In our comparison, question number 3, 8BN's minimum was 2 while 8NC was 7, with a difference of 5. As for the interquartile range, 8BN had a higher value, which was 2.5, while 8NC had a value of 2. For 8NC, the data is slightly clustered because the box plot values are mostly between 8 to 10 and the median is 9, which means the data is not really spread out. As for 8BN, it has a wider range from 2 to 10 and the middle of the box being from 6 to 9, which shows the data is more spread out. Part 4. I think one big weakness in our survey was question number 2, as it only gave them 2 different options, which was yes and no, and that was a very limited answer choice. Thank you for watching our presentation.
Hello, my name is Teo.
My name is Caesar. Our survey investigated the ice cream preferences of Year 8 students. We compared students from 8BN and 8NC using 5 questions about ice cream habits, flavors, toppings, and serving preferences.
For our question number 1, most students in both classes ate ice cream once per week, shown by the median and mode of 1. However, 8BN had a higher mean and much larger range, suggesting that a few students in 8BN eat ice cream much more often than others.
For question 2, for favorite flavors, the most common answer in both classes was none of the above. This suggests that many students prefer flavors that were not included in our survey. Looking only at the listed flavors, mint chocolate chip was the most popular in 8BN, while vanilla was the most popular in 8NC.
For question number 3, the cone or cup question, both classes gave very similar results. Cones were slightly more popular overall, showing that the students generally prefer eating ice cream in a cone rather than a cup.
For question 4, for favorite toppings, sprinkles were most popular choice with 23.8% of the responses. Oreo and Nutella were tied for second place. This suggests students prefer sweet and familiar toppings.
For our last question, question 5, our question was favorite number of scoops. 1 scoop was the most common answer in both classes. However, 8NC had a slightly higher average, suggesting that students in that class preferred a little more ice cream overall.
Overall, both classes showed very similar ice cream preferences. Most students eat ice cream about once per week, prefer 1 scoop, and enjoy cones and sprinkles. The best surprise was that many students chose none of the above for flavors, suggesting we could have included more flavor options.
For our evaluation, one thing we did well was comparing both Year 8 classes, which allowed us to identify patterns and differences across the whole year level rather than just one class. One limitation was that some of our survey questions had limited answer choices. For example, many students selected none of the above for favorite flavor, which suggests that their preferred flavor was not included. If we repeat this survey, we could provide more flavor options or allow students to write their own answer.
Thank you for listening to our presentation.
Year 8 ice cream preferences made by Lottie, Jackson, and Teddy. Question 1, categorical ice cream flavors. How many different ice cream flavors have you tried? As you can see our statistics and our bar graph. And what does this show us? The most popular category was other, made by 13 students, showing that many students preferred flavors not listed on the survey. Vanilla was the most popular named flavor, made by 7 students, while strawberry and mango were the least popular, made by 1 student each. 8 and C had more students choosing vanilla and other flavors, whereas 8BN had slightly higher preferences for chocolate, mint chocolate, and lemon. Overall, students showed a wide range of ice cream flavor preferences. Question 2, categorical. Do you like ice cream or sorbet better? As you can see our statistics and our bar graph. And what does this show us? The graph shows that ice cream was preferred over sorbet by students in both classes. In 8 and C, 16 students chose ice cream compared to 5 others who preferred sorbet. Similarly, in 8BN, 13 students chose ice cream, while 7 others chose sorbet. This indicates that ice cream is the more popular option overall and among your 8 students. Although both classes preferred ice cream, A and C showed a slightly stronger preferences for sorbet. Overall, the results suggested that most students favored ice cream rather than sorbet. Question 3, numerical. How many ice creams do you usually eat? And as you can see our pie chart, our 2 pie charts, and our statistics. What does this show us? The pie charts show that 2 scoop was the most common choice in both classes. In 8 and C, about 62% of students usually ate 2 scoops, while around 29 chose 1 scoop. And 10% chose 4 scoops. In 8BN, 60% of students chose 2 scoops, 35% chose 1 scoop, and only 5% chose 3 scoops. This suggests that most students in both classes prefer having 2 scoops of ice cream, making it the clear favorite amount. Question 4, numerical. How many ice creams have you tried? As you can see our statistics and our bar graph. What does it show us? The graph shows the number of different ice cream flavors students in 8BN and 8BN have tried in both classes. The most common response was 12 flavors, with 12 students from each class selecting this number. Students in 8 and C were more likely to report trying 6 or 11 flavors, while students in 8BN were more likely to report 2 or 4 flavors. Overall, the results suggest that most Year 8 students have tried a wide variety of ice cream flavors, with many students reporting that they have tried 12 different flavors.
Job survey. Year 8 statistics project made by Sira Alustiza and Chia Jabrik. Question 1, categorical. If you could choose one job in the future, what would it be? For this question, we decided to do a comparison of 8BN and ANC. For 8BN, the most common future job is athlete. But for 8NC, the most common future job is an actor. Overall, the most common future job to be is an athlete. Question 2, categorical. Out of all of these jobs, which one would you choose to definitely not do in your life? For this question, we decided to do an overall Year 8 total answer. Most people really don't want to be a pilot, with a total percentage of 18.90% of the class not wanting to be a pilot. Question 3, categorical. If you had an opinion on someone being a pilot, what would it be? The most common response on someone being a pilot is I like it, with a percentage of 38.10%. This really surprised us, as because from the previous questions, we saw that people really did not want to be a pilot when they grow up. Question 4, categorical. If you had an opinion on someone being a businessman, what would it be? The most common response is I don't know, with a percentage of 38.10%. This also surprised us from the previous questions. As we saw, most people really liked being a businessman. Question 5, numerical. What do you rank being an athlete when you grow up 1 out of 10? Most people love being an athlete when they grow up, and we can see this from the mode as it says it is 10. Question 6, numerical. What do you rank being a doctor when you grow up 1 out of 10? Most people really don't mind ending up being a doctor when they grow up, as we can see this as because the mode says people rank it being a 5 out of 10, as they don't mind being a doctor. This also really surprised me, as because being a doctor when you grow up is a very special job, and I thought more people would like it. Thank you.
Hi guys, this is the favorite food survey by me, Destin, and Chris, and we sampled 40 students from Year 8 BN and Year 8 NC. Alright, so this is numerical question number 1. We asked to rate your favorite food out of 10, and as you can see, most people rated it at a 10, as the mean being 9.7. The minimum was also still pretty high at a 7 out of 10, further proving our hypothesis right. Numerical question number 2. How often have you eaten your favorite food in the past week? As you can see here, most people ate their favorite food just about 3 times a week, which is actually less than we expected. We thought that people ate their favorite food more than they actually did, but this info shows us that people don't have to eat food a lot for it to be their favorite.
This is categorical question number 3. Choose your favorite food from these answers. We thought that pizza was going to have the most votes, but it turns out that sushi was a lot more popular, taking over half of all the votes, and that was unexpected. This is categorical question number 4. How often do you eat your food per month? The most popular choice was 1 to 2 times a month, which is not a lot, and we expected that people would eat it around 5 or 6 times each month.
So this is categorical question number 5. How many years ago do you start liking your favorite food? Okay. So of the people in year 8, most started liking their food 8 years ago. We were very surprised that some people put 13 to 14 years ago because we weren't expecting those results. So this is our categorical question number 6. Can you cook your favorite food at home? So most people answered yes, which was actually very surprising from us, because we thought most people wouldn't be able to cook their favorite food at home. And we also compared year 8 BN to NC. So in our results, NC could cook their favorite food more than BN.
Hello everyone. Our survey investigated Year 8 students' screen time habits. We collected data from classes 8BN and 8NC to find out how much time students spend on devices, which apps they use the most, and how screen time affects them.
Our first question was asked how many hours students spend on their devices each day. In ABN, the most common answer was 1 hour 15 minutes to 1 hour 44 minutes. In ANC, the most common answers were slightly higher. This suggests that students in ANC had a higher screen time and generally spent more time on devices than in ABN.
We asked which app takes most of our students' screen time. TikTok was the most popular answer in both classes, followed by YouTube. This shows that social media and short-form videos make up a large part of Year 8 students' screen time.
Our third question asked how many apps students used in a day. With both classes had a median of 5 apps, and the results are very similar, showing that most students use regularly around 5 different apps each day.
We asked students to rate how much screen time negatively impacts their lives on a scale from 0 to 9. Both classes had a median score of 4, which suggests that most students feel screen time has only a moderate negative impact on their daily lives.
Our fifth question asked the highest amount of screen time students had in one day, and the median was 9 hours in 8BN and 8 hours in 8NC. This shows that occasionally some students spend large amount of times on their devices.
When asked about their favorite app, TikTok was again the most popular choice in both classes. This supports our earlier findings and that TikTok plays a major role in how Year 8 students spend their screen time.
In conclusion, our survey showed that Year 8 students spent a significant time on their devices, with TikTok being the most favorite and most used app and favorite apps. The two classes had very similar results after all, although A and C tended to have a bit higher screen time. One limitation of our survey was that the small sample size. In the future, we could improve the liability and perform more higher scale surveys.
This is a slide for the question, what class you in? This chart shows us that 60% of the people that answered were from 8BN and 40% of the people that answered were from A and C. This tells us that more people from 8BN answered than from A and C. The way we got this information was after we sent out the survey. When you go to responders in Google Sheets and show exactly how many people responded and the percentage of people who responded from each class.
This slide is the slide for the question, which of these is your favorite car brand? The most popular answer was Porsche, with 33.3% of students choosing it. McLaren was next with 20%, while Ferrari and BMW both received 16.7%. Lamborghini received 6.7%, and Mercedes and Honda each got 3.3%. Audi, Toyota, and Chevrolet received no votes. This shows that most students prefer luxury or sports car brands, with Porsche being the clear favorite.
This is the slide for the question, how many car brands from your favorite brand have you ridden in? The most common answer was clearly 1 to 2 cars, with 33.3% of students choosing it. 30% said they had never ridden in their favorite car brand. 20% had ridden in 3 to 5 cars, and 16.7% had ridden in 6 or more cars. This shows that most of the students have only ridden in a few cars from their favorite brand.
This is the slide for the question, do you prefer electric cars or gas cars? Most students chose gas cars with 70% of the votes, and electric cars got 30%. This shows that students in our class generally prefer gas cars over electric cars. The way we got this info was from putting our statistics into Google Sheets and making a chart.
This is the slide for the question, how many thousands are you willing to spend on a car in USD? Most students said they would spend around 70,000 on a car. The average amount was about 71,000, and the most common answer was 50,000. Most answers were between 50,000 and 80,000, but a few students were willing to spend up to 110,000. This shows that most students chose a moderate budget, while some students were willing to spend much more.
This slide is for the question, how fast do you want your dream car to go in kilometers per hour? We asked 30 classmates, and most of them wanted their cars to go really fast. The most popular answer was other at 33.3%, which means they wanted speeds we didn't even list out. Out of the speeds we did list 130 kilometers per hour was the most popular at 20%. Nobody picked 120 kilometers per hour, which is kind of weird. Overall, most people wanted their dream car to go at high speeds.
This is our shoe survey from John and Flynn. 41 people were surveyed throughout year 8.
Question 1 was categorical data. What type of shoe brand do you like to wear inside of the school? So we did comparisons. So overall in both classes, the most popular was Nike with 39%. But as we can see from the comparison one, you can see that BN's data was much more spread out, and we also had a data point from sketches in BN while we didn't have one in 8NC.
Question 2 was categorical, and we had a pie chart to represent this data. Crocs was the most chose, and I think that people prefer more comfort when they're outside of school, and they like the style of their shoes inside of school.
Okay, next one. So we had question 3, numerical, number of shoes owned. As we can see, most people in year 8 own between 5 and 6 shoes. We can see from the data most people own 5 to 6 pairs of shoes, which is the median. We can also see that not a single option that has 0%, which indicates year 8 owns a varied amount of shoes. We can see the data spread. It's pretty, almost even. We can see a bit more people had from 1 to 5 pairs of shoes. And then over in the statistics, we can also see we had a minimum of 1, max of 10, and a range of 9, and then a mean of about 5.24.
Question 4 is numerical, and what is your shoe size European? And we can show our data using a bar chart, and we can see that the mode is 35 to 40, and one response with a shoe size of 56. This outlier brings up the mean a lot, which is why the median, which is 40, is a more useful average in this situation.
Yeah, and then in our final question 6 category, do you prefer thick or thin soles of your shoes? As we see in ANC, most people preferred in the middle to thin soles, less thicker soles, but then in BN, a lot more people preferred in the middle or thick. And we can see it overall most popular was in the middle, which we believe is just because people don't want to have really little comfort with thin shoes, but they don't want to have the look super tall or whatever with the thick soles. So in the middle was most chosen as around 63% in total.
In conclusion, both classes gave very similar answers across all 4 questions, but with the types of shoe brands, 8BN have more shoe brands and the data was more varied. As we can see in Q5 that people in 8NC tend to like thinner soles to their shoes, while 8BN like thick or middle soles.
Thank you. We can also see the amount of shoe people surveyed, which is 40, which is a small survey. So more, if we had more people, it could be more accurate. In question 4, shoe size, there was one person with an outlier of a shoe size 56. We figured out who it was, and the shoe size of that person was not correct. We believe this was possibly a mistake by someone, or they thought it was 46, not 56. Also, in question 1 and 2, we think we could have added more options because the amount of responses choosing other was very large. Thank you.
Today, me and Dean will be presenting our social media survey data. We surveyed 40 students from 8BN and 8 of
Our aim was to investigate the social media habits of year 8 students. We asked 6 questions about how often students use social media, which apps they use, and what they mainly use social media for.
For our first question, we asked students how many days a week do you use social media?
When we combined both classes, the mean was 6.3 days per week. The most common answer, or mode, was 7 days, with 29 out of 40 choosing.
The IQR was only 1, which means there was very little spreading the data, and most students showed very similar answers.
This tells us that the social media is a regular part of students' lives, with most students using it almost every day. For our second question, we asked students how many different social media apps do they use each day.
The mean is 3.875 and the median is 4, showing that most students use around 3 to 4 social media apps a day.
There was a large range of 9, because of an outlier 10, which increased the spread of data and raised the mean.
We also see in this document report that more than 75% of students use 3 apps or more a day, but only 25% use 5 or more. Next, we ask students, what social media app do you use the most?
TikTok was the most popular choice, with 16 out of 40 students choosing it, or 40% selecting it.
Instagram was the least popular option, with only 3 students choosing it. We can see from TikTok being the most popular and Instagram being the least popular that students prefer TikTok over Instagram for entertainment and talking with friends, since they share similar interests.
The results from both classes are quite similar, especially for WhatsApp and Snapchat, which both had the same number of responses in each class.
Overall, this suggests that TikTok is the most popular platform against students use today, and both of the classes share this similar social media.
For our fourth question, we asked students what they mainly use social media for.
Entertainment is by far the most common answer, with 28 out of 40 students, or 70% choosing it.
Only one student chose news, and nobody selected school.
There were also slightly more students in ANC who said they mainly use social media for talking with friends.
These results show that students mainly use social media for enjoyment rather than educational purposes.
For question 5, we asked students, how many hours do you spend on social media per day?
The most common response was 1 to 2 hours per day, 24 out of 40 students choosing this option.
Both classes showed very similar patterns, especially in the categories of less than 1 hour and 6+ hours.
This tells us that most students spend a moderate amount of time on social media each day. For our final question, we asked students what time of the day they use social media the most.
The results show that many students use social media in the afternoon and mainly after.
The two classes have similar percentage for evening use, but there are some differences in the afternoon and late night categories.
Only one student selected morning, making it an outlier of the data.
Overall, this shows that students have slightly different habits, but most prefer using social media later in the day.
In conclusion, both classes showed very similar responses across all 6 questions.
The results suggest that most students use social media mainly for entertainment and usually around 3 to 4 different apps.
Most students also spend between 1 to 2 hours per day on social media and tend to use the most often in the afternoon.
One limitation for our survey was the use of other, an option in some questions as it did not provide specific answers.
Some students also may have rushed through the survey, which could affect our reliability.
However, because the results were mostly consistent between both classes, we believe the survey gives a reliable picture of the Year 8 students' social media habits. Thank you for listening.
Welcome to our project about favorite foods and cuisines of Year 8.
By Calvin, Lewis, and Stefan.
Stefanos. First question is categorical, and it's what is the favorite food of your ANC and 8BN? For ANC, it was 63.2%, and for 8BN, it was 21.1. Sushi topped both classes, likely because in Bali there are lots of good sushi restaurants, and they aren't as expensive as other restaurants. In second place, there's meats, at least in ANC. There was a three-way deadlock between meats, sandwiches, burgers, and wraps in 8BN. People might have chosen meat for their rich, savory flavor, and because more Korean barbecue restaurants are opening up in Bali. Similarly, sandwiches, burgers, and wraps all almost always have meat in them.
Oh, it's you. Question 2.
Question 2, also categorical. What country does your favorite cuisine originate from? For this, we did this for both ANC and 8BN. You'll probably be able to see the graph, Mr. Benson, with the key of the color. Japan was by far the most popular in both classes, with 11 picks in ANC and 6 in 8BN. Although ANC had more picks in one area, 8BN had a more varied range of answers, which tell us 8BN has more a varied taste in cuisines, and not everyone chose the same most popular option. Countries such as Japan and Italy were chosen the most, which we expected because they have some of the most well-known foods in the world, like pizza and pasta. This links up very well to our previous question where sushi was the most chosen answer from both classes. Next slide.
Question 3 is numerical, and it's how many times per month you eat your favorite food. and we made two box and whisker plot charts, and the first one's for 8 and C, and the second one's for APM. Our comparison and interpretation is that 8 and C and APM both average around 3 times per month, suggesting they eat their favorite food once every 10 days. This shows that they balance eating their favorite food with other different foods too. They both have the same range, 8, and they also have the same IQR, which is 2.5, showing that the data is equally varied. The mode for 8 and C was 3, while it was 4 for APN, meaning that the mode is very close to the mean. APN had 5 outliers, while 8 and C only had 2, and their data was heavily compacted around 3 and 4. The reason APN still had a low average with 5 outliers is because they contrasted each other. It was 0 and 8, which is the highest and lowest.
Hello, it's me and Lucas. So today we're going to be presenting sport preferences by Lucas and Casper. So 41 students were surveyed, and this was made in May 2026. We're investigating different types of sport activities and preferences.
And we're going to be moving on to the first question. Okay, question 1. It's a categorical question. What sports do you prefer? Over here, we can see a graph that says sport preferences, a comparing graph that says sport preferences for 8 and C and sport preferences for ABN. It's that there's red is ABN and blue is 8 and C. Here you can see a graph, a bar which says the percentage of students that chose each option out of 41, which means 41 people voted. Duh. Anyway, what does this tell us? Other, which is this one, was the most popular. It was chosen by 11 students and is the highest out of all of them. This is pretty shocking since that these sports were probably the most popular sports I could find with research. So that 11 people chose other is pretty fascinating. It tells us that there's a lot more sports than I predicted. Even though football was pretty obvious because it was one of the most popular sports worldwide with 7 votes, and the least was tennis and badminton, with only 1 vote for each of them, about 2.40%. It's probably because it's not popular enough and people don't really like it. And it's not popular enough and people don't really like it. Yeah, we had to move spots because it was a little bit too noisy. Anyway, for the second question.
Okay, so the second question is a categorical question, and it says, do you prefer team sports or individual sports? So these are the two. We're comparing both classes. So team sport for ABN, and they like team sports more. I mean, sport preferences for ABN, they like team sports more, and sport preferences for ANC, and they prefer both of them equally. And it says here the percentage of students that chose each option out of 41 over here. Okay, what does this tell us? This tells us that 8 and C prefers team sport and individual sport equally. But in the other hand, 8BN prefers team sport way more than individual sport. And this shows that 8BN likes playing in a team and using teamwork. But overall, team sports, for example, football or basketball, got 56.10%, especially because team sports are mostly the more popular ones, unlike individual sports. All this means that A and C is more equal, but both classes share pretty equal results instead of very varied results.
Wow, that's very fascinating, Lucas.
Yep.
Moving on to the next question. Numerical. Question 3. How many sports do you play? As you can see here, there's a box and whisker plot, and next to it is a table. How many sports do you play? There is mode, max, min, mean, range, median, quartile 1, quartile 3, and IQR.
Hello, and this is my part of me and Darcy's sports survey. In this survey question, the most popular sport is football, but the answer other sports is voted the most. The outliers are esports and swimming, since they were only voted once, and running, skating, and fishing, because they weren't voted at all. Basketball is liked more in ABN, and other sports and football is liked more in 8 and C.
Okay, days of the week that people play their favorite sport. The median of this was 3, so that is the half point, and then our mean was 3.42, so average people play about 3
almost 3.5 days of sport per week.
On question 3, overall, Gargable is the most popular sport chosen in Sports Day, with ANC liking it more than APN. In APN, Crowball and Battleship Volleyball have the same amount of votes, as well as both classes with Crowball. The anomalies are that there was only one vote in relay races in ANC.
On this part of our survey, it talks about what the people would like to add to Sports Day as our CCS Sports Day. The number one with 31.4% of people said football. Then number 2 in this list was minigames, which was 28.6%. And then the third one was other with 8.6% with 3 people. This shows that most people would like to add football or minigames to our Sports Day at CCS.
In question 5, since the box plot starts in the upper half, this makes the 75% of people like sport. The mode, maximum, and third quartile are all 10 out of 10, making 20% of all answers 10 out of 10. This makes Year 8 like sport a lot, except the 2 outliers, which were giving 1-star ratings out of 10.
On this question, we are talking about how the people that picked other on question 1, what is their favorite sport? So for number 1, and the only one without more than 1 vote, is paddle or tennis. That had 3 votes with 23%. But all the other ones only had 1 vote, meaning that 8NC and 8BN all have very different opinions on what the best sport is.
In conclusion, the favorite sport in this year group is football. For question 2, the mode is 7 days a week. Gargable is the favorite game in Sports Day, and if we added a game in Sports Day, it would be football. The most common rating for sport is 10 out of 10. Mainly, this survey was done all good, and only the people who didn't like sport were the outliers.